Hi everybody, Jillian here for Illustrated Faith's Print and Pray Shop, and today I am back in my Bible to bring you a new process video. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas last week, and if you're watching this when the video goes live, there is currently an after Christmas sale happening in the Print and Pray Shop, 60% off all of those like Christmas seasonal products. So don't forget to check that out if you haven't already. Today I'm going to be using an assortment of Print and Pray products to journal a theme. So if you want to use those sale products into the new year, this is a great way to do that. This is going to look a little bit Christmassy, but we could totally stretch these to make pages that don't look like they came from December products. I'll explain what I mean by that in a little bit, but first I want to get the background for my page down. And so I'm going to be using this star stencil from Tim Holtz that I've been using all month, along with a gel plate, a brayer, and some acrylic paint. If you picked up the Advent kit from Illustrated Faith, there's like a mini star stencil in there that you could use similarly if you wanted to try this out with the gel plate, or if you wanted to put some like metallic paint through the stencil. So what I'm doing here is putting a pretty thin layer of acrylic paint on my gel plate and then layering the stencil over top. This is just a test print here. My stencil got a little wobbly under there, but you could see that I just took this scrap paper and I layered it on top of the stencil that was on top of the plate, and so it pulled off the paint through the opening in the stencil. So now that I've got my test print done, I'm going to switch up my approach and try it again. So again, putting that thin layer of acrylic paint on the plate, and then using the scrap paper to pull up the paint that is accessible from in between the star stencil. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing. I actually flipped the stencil over so I could use the other side. I securely held the stencil in place this time so it wasn't wonky. And now I'm left with the negative space from the stencil, and I'm going to transfer my plate onto my Bible page here. Now I'm using a 6x6 plate, and it's kind of heavy and it sometimes gets away from me, but I got a good enough impression here, I think. So I'm just pressing that down to make sure that all of the paint has been transferred to my page, and then I'm going to repeat the process again, putting down way less acrylic paint than I think I need. This is a super old Martha Stewart metallic craft paint that I got from a big box store. I'm using my brayer to spread that around. I am going to clean off my stencil in between attempts here, just to make sure some old paint doesn't get in the way. And then once that's done, I'm repeating the process. Same thing, using lots of scrap paper to pull up some of that paint. And then taking the gel plate very carefully and lining that up on my Bible page here. So because my plate is smaller than my page, I'm going to have a few seams, but I actually really like that look where the two plates come together. You'll see here in a moment when I lift this one up. See, I kind of have this line along the top third of the page. I kind of really like that. And I have a little bit on the edge here that I want to cover up, and I have a little bit of paint left on my plate. So I'm going to kiss that to my page, press that firmly to make sure the paint is transferred. I have another seam there, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this last little bit of paint on my plate. Then I'm going to go ahead and get cleaned up and let this guy dry. I really like how this came out. You can see once it's upright again, it kind of looks like antiqued paper or something, and then the seams look like creases, maybe where it was folded. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I think it's pretty cool how this turned out. It's a pretty forgiving technique. As you can see, it's super messy, but works pretty great for our background. All right, now I've got some printables here from Sarah Gleason of Plant Your Story, and I love this sentiment, King Forever Ceasing Never. It's one of my favorite lyrics from one of my favorite Christmas songs of all time. So I have this printed on clear sticker paper, and I'm going to put this someplace on my page. The theme that I'm journaling about today is Christ Jesus, like Jesus as King. And so I'm going to look for things that can help me document that, help me tell that story on this page. And so that's why I'm going to pull from a few different print and pray sets here. As I was figuring out where I wanted things to live on this page, I decided to reach for Kelly Bang's Christmas flashcards. These are available both physically and digitally in the Illustrated Faith shop. And so I opted for the one that said king at the bottom, and I'm going to layer this with a bunch more pieces from the Print and Pray shop. But first I want to work on this, what's going to be my title card. So I looked through my stamp stash and I wanted a stamp that said Christ. So I found this super old one that Shauna had done for Dayspring years ago, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this just above the word King on Kelly's flashcard. And I'm journaling in Genesis 49, verse 10, where Jacob blesses his sons, and this is specifically the blessing that he gives to Judah. He says, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples." So this prophecy points to a great king in Israel, chosen by God, his anointed one. And so that's what I'm journaling about today, Jesus as king. So I want to have like a cluster on my page here adjacent to my journaling, and I'm looking through Shauna Klingerman's Advent Essentials. I love labels. They're super versatile year-round, so I'm going to add some labels behind there. I have a little like delivery slip that's in Taylor's set Good Tidings, and then I'm looking through just some other paper pieces that I have on my desk. I have this red tag left over from the Advent kit, and then some more of Shauna Klingerman's Advent tickets, which are just so fun. I'm going to trim down this card. I don't need all of it. I have way more that I want to write than will fit on this card. So I'm just going to get that guy a little bit smaller so that I have plenty of room to write. And then I'll start by layering these things behind here. I'm using this beautiful branch of greenery from Brianna's Digitals that coordinate with her A Light for All devotional. And then you can see that I'm using these labels just kind of layered up here also. So yeah, there's red and there's green in here, but I don't think it's overtly Christmassy. Maybe the Advent tags make it a little bit more seasonal because it says Advent on there, but I think that if you wanted something that could work in February or March, then maybe just omit that. Okay, so now that all of those bits are stuck down, I'm going to go ahead and finish my journaling. I'm looking to my notebook here where I just have some notes written down. And because I'm writing on top of acrylic paint, I'm using a Zig vellum writer, which is specifically like formulated to write over mixed media so it doesn't tear up the nib of my pen. And then I'm using some older Word Nerd stamps here. These are like some of my all-time favorite stamps. And so I'm going to reference two other passages in my journaling from Matthew and Luke. And so I really like having this stamp in here to point me to those passages in a cute way. I think so often we can put Jesus in the friend zone, and it wasn't until I was in prayer group several weeks ago, one of the women that was praying said something like, "I pledge allegiance to the Lamb," and that really stuck with me. I wrote it down in the moment, and it reminded me of this theme that's just been repeated over and over, especially as I studied Matthew this year, of Jesus as King. That's how Matthew presents him in his gospel. And when I read this bit in my devotional that I've been doing this year, it says, "Christians often define ourselves by doctrines and beliefs, but the word Christ calls us to more than that. If Christ is a king, a Christian is one who acknowledges Jesus as his king and submits to his reign." Jesus is the chosen king prophesied long ago, all the way back here in Genesis chapter 49. And so that's why I wanted to just note it here. I punctuated my journaling with this lyric, "King Forever, Ceasing Never," from Sarah's set, and just love how that worked out. I want to go ahead and identify the verse that I'm journaling with my pen over on the right side. And then I'm going to create a tab for my page using Vanessa's Advent Bits and Bobs set. I wanted to bring some red over to the right side, so I chose that one. I'm going to go ahead and use my tape runner to get that down in the top right corner. I just wrote the word King on there. I'm going to bring the paint and the stencil over to the right side again. This time, instead of using the gel plate, I'm just going to finger paint and put a little bit of this gold paint on my finger and then swipe it through the stencil. It didn't come out great, but that's totally okay. I just wanted to draw attention to the verse and bring a little bit of the metallic over onto the right side. I told you guys last week I don't have a great relationship with paints and stencils. There we go, a little bit of a close-up look. And then I wanted to bring some more greenery over to the right, so I'm going to go back to Brianna's digital ephemera for A Light for All. And I have this little branch printed on clear sticker paper, so I'm just going to put that up here, up at the right. Trim off any excess hanging over the page. I'm going to take a little bit of the washi from the Advent kit and secure the tab up at the top. And then I want to date stamp this entry, so I'm just going to use my little roller date stamp and stamp it on top of the card. And that's going to do it. So I've got a finished look along with a couple of close-ups at my project here. Don't forget, the after Christmas 60% off sale is happening in the Print and Pray shop. All the details are linked down in the video description below. I hope you have a wonderful new year, and I'll see you soon.